Welcome back, everyone. I am so happy to be back tonight on Society of Bosses. Tonight, we're going to have an awesome episode. I'm so intrigued and just so happy to have this guest come on to share some really relevant information with us. Something that's going to actually level us up, something that's going to build us up, and add more, knowledge to the information we currently already have. So this is Society of Bosses, and we usually come to you guys on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and now Fridays. And today, I'm going to open up how we usually do with a quote. But today, we're going to do it just a little bit different. Okay, so we're going to start with an opening. And I'm going to say that may the truth spoken in the words tonight be able to mold, build, and awaken your inner boss. So, awaken who you truly are, who you're truly meant to be. So, may these words, do something to you and, that you're able to, grow from what we have and what we have to share tonight. So, without further ado, I have two quotes that I definitely want to read to you, and it's dealing with real estate. So, the first one says 90% of all millionaires become so through owning real estate, and that was by Andrew Carnegie. Then we also have don't wait to buy real estate and wait. And lastly, the wise young person or wage earner of today invests his money in real estate. So, what exactly does that mean? How can you utilize this information to help you grow? Now, you know how we do. We usually talk to our entrepreneurs, our leaders, and our bosses, and we get to know a little bit about them, and then we allow them to drop knowledge on us. So, without further ado, let's bring on tonight's guest. So I would love to welcome Maurice E. Johnson. He is a licensed real estate expert, salesperson. He's amazing at what he do. And our purpose here is to tell you guys and allow him to show you and tell you briefly about how to enter the real estate market through programs. Okay, so without further ado, I am bringing my guest to the stage right now. Okay, here we go. Let's see if we see him. There we go. Hi, Maurice.
Hey, what's going on, Todd? How's everything?
Everything is going well. Thank you for being so patient with us and our technical difficulties that we had today. We truly appreciate it.
No problem at all. Sorry, I'm still driving, but I'm out here picking up contracts for a closing tomorrow, so I had to run to Brooklyn real quick. But I didn't want to miss the live, so we have to do it while I'm driving.
That's right. That's not a problem. We know you're a busy person, so we're definitely here for it all. And you look sharp too. We love your suit.
Thank you. I tried. A few people were
Okay.
asking me. A few people were asking about the link, so I don't know if you can post the link on my page because I see people
Okay.
texting me asking me about the link where they can see it at. So if you can
No
post it on my
problem.
Facebook page, that'll work.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just trying to share it to your page
Okay.
here. So I believe I'm going to tag you. Hmm. Okay, we're working on it. Okay,
No problem.
sorry, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. I know everyone is joining from our Facebook, our group, our YouTube, and we're excited about that. So, um,
Well, I'll actually be stationary in about 1 minute.
okay, so it's posted to your page. So, all right.
All right.
Okay, so as we open up, tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, please.
All right. So Maurice Johnson, um, from Hempstead, New York, born and bred on the hikes, as they say.
Right.
Um, 45 years old. I started in the real estate game. Well, put it like this: I got my license as a licensed salesperson back in 2006. But I had actually been involved in real estate since about maybe 99, 2000, which is when I bought my first property. But just a little bit more about me. So started out 2006 as a licensed sales agent. Never ever thought that I would be a realtor. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was pretty much, my path was to be a police officer, and that was like the path that I was going down. So while I was working for this company called Robert Plant Insurance out in Long Island, I had turned down a few offers with different police departments in Maryland, Baltimore, NYPD, and I was on call for Nassau County Police Department. And it's just funny how things happen because I got laid off from my job. I was working in arbitration litigation for this insurance company, Robert Plan, and I got laid off on a Friday. I used to always tell the people at my job, you have to plan for the unexpected. Don't
Right.
just rely on your job because at any given point, your job can just be taken from you. Not knowing that I was going to be the one in that position at the same time. So it's funny. So the crazy thing was, I got laid off, and our layoffs was making the newspaper. It made news day because we were laying off hundreds of people. So I got caught in like the third wave of layoffs. That Friday I got laid off, and I said to myself, I said, you know what? I don't want to go back working for anybody. That was in 2006. I got laid off on that Friday. I made a phone call to my wife at the time, and I said, "Listen, this is what happened. Got laid off, but I don't want to go back to work for anybody." I was like, you know what? I want to just jump right into real estate. So I said, but if I do that, things are going to change drastically because that that flow of income is not going to be there. So
Right.
things are going to be different. And she supported me. She was just like, "Yo, if that's what you want to do, all right, no problem." So she supported me, which is a big plus. And by that Monday, I was in real estate school. So laid off on a Friday, Monday I was in real estate school because I got right on the phone and started calling different places. Wound up going to this place out in Levittown, New York called Lysor, and that's where I took my classes. And it just took off kind of from there. And the funny thing was, I never really, like I said before, I never really wanted to be an agent. But there was a lady by the name of Dorenza Emanuel. She was the director of NACA when they were in New York. So when I
Mm,
started the process of NACA myself, she was the director, and then Carrie Campbell was a loan officer. She used to always tell me, she said, Maurice, you'd make a good realtor. I'm like, nah, I wouldn't make a good realtor. I said, because I don't like people. And she was like, no, you'd make a good realtor. I said, nah. I said, I don't have the patience for people. I said, I'm a very straightforward type of guy. And a lot of people can't handle directness from a person. And she said, that's why I think you'll be a good realtor because you're very direct with people. Um, but you take your time to explain things. You tell people how it is. And that's what they need, somebody who's gonna be honest. So I was like, I didn't pay any attention to it, but and that happened a couple of years later. So then once I finally got laid off and that opportunity presented itself, I said, you know what, I'm gonna just go ahead and do this. I always knew I was gonna do real estate from an investing standpoint, because like a lot of my uncles and family members had already been involved in real estate, buying properties and renting them out. So I saw how much money that they were making from that. So I looked at getting into real estate, not from a real estate to sell to people. I only want to get into it from an aspect of being an investor. So once I actually got the license and I started doing it, and people started referring me clients because I really, like I said, I really wasn't trying to work with people. I was doing it for myself. The clients started coming, and I fell in love with it. Like, I
Wow.
couldn't believe how much I fell in love with it. And I walked away from an opportunity with Nassau County Police Department to take on to start my real estate career, because I knew one thing. I said, you know what? I can make six figures as a cop, but I can also make six figures working for myself. And the one thing I did notice was some of my family members working on a job, you didn't have control over your hours and your time. And because of how I grew up without my father really being in my life the way I would have wanted him to be in my life, I said, I want to be there for everything that my kids do. Anything that they have, I want to be there to support. I don't want them to ever feel what I felt.
Right.
So real estate was like the perfect segue to put me in a position where I didn't have to work for anybody. I can control my own hours and my time. I can make as much money as I wanted or as little as money as I wanted. All depend on me.
Right.
And it kind of started from there, and everything just grew. The funny thing is, my first transaction, I wasn't even a realtor. I was probably about 24, 25 years old. I bought a piece of land out in Freeport, Long Island, a vacant lot, right? This is what got me hooked. I paid 25,000. I found this guy. I was driving around just looking at addresses, and I would search the addresses up and contact the owners. So then I saw this one piece of land, 160, I'll never forget the address, 164 Moore Avenue in Freeport. And I said, you know what? Let me find out who owns this piece of land. So I called the guy. He was way upstate somewhere in New York, and he didn't really want to be, it was left to him through somebody in his family. So they didn't really want to be bothered with the property. So I said, you know what? How much would you like to sell it for? And I wanted to buy it to build my own house.
Right.
So he was like, listen, give me 25,000 and you could take the land. I was like, no problem. So I gave him 25,000 cash for the property. Um, in my mind, I'm going to build a house into the real estate world. I'm trying to build a house. So I go about getting the plans. I feel I'm going to build a modular house, and I'm going through everything. And then I'm getting all this resistance. And they're like, well, you got to go to the building department. So it got to the point where I had to apply for a variance. And basically, is a variance is what I had to apply for the variance for. You had to have a certain amount of side yard and your setbacks, which is the front, side, and back. So I fell short by like 5.5 feet on one side of the property. So they said, well, you're going to have to go to the board zoning and file for a variance, which I did all of that. And they were trying to make it seem like, oh, well, if you build a house there, it's going to bring down the property values of the other properties. And I didn't know a lot about real estate back then, but I knew that building a house was not going to bring down somebody else's property value. If anything, it would increase the property value.
Right.
Well, come to find out, the reason why I was getting so much resistance was the deputy mayor's house was right next door to the lot that I wanted to buy. They just didn't want a house built next to their property. So I never got a chance to have the property built. So what I did was I sold the land to this other guy from Verde Land Builders. I sold the land to him. Remember, I paid 25,000 for it. Now the property is no use to me because they're telling me because I need a variance, I'm not going to be able to build on it. So I explained that to him, and he was just like, I'm not concerned about that. I can get it done. Okay. He said, well, how much you want for the land? Now I just threw this out there. I was like, well, give me 75,000. And he was like, no problem. So after the deal was said and done, I said to myself, he took that so fast, I probably undersold this property because he didn't try to drew me down or anything. He was just like, sure. But in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. I made 25,000. I paid 25,000 for this, made $50,000, sold it for 75, made 50 grand. It didn't really require no work for me. So now I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Now, I didn't always have the past who I am now is not who I was years ago. So I looked at that as wait, $25,000, flipped that into 75, but made a $50,000 profit. My whole time in high school, I sold weed. I did
Right.
all kinds of things. I was just involved with a lot of stuff from counterfeit money, weed, all kind of different things I was involved in.
Right.
But I said, wait a minute, this is legal. You mean to tell me within this short period of time, I was able to make a $50,000 profit that didn't really require any work? And it kind of was, it put my mind to like, you know what, this is what I got to do. So from there, after I got my license and I started really getting into it, selling properties, like I said, I fell in love with it. I bought my first property myself through the NACA program. Um, that was in 2001. 2001 when I got my first property, so I wasn't even licensed back then. But just to start from there, bridging, segueing into the NACA program. Um, in my mind, I had an idea on what I wanted for a house. I wanted a big kitchen. I wanted a big living room. I wanted at least a two-car garage. I had all these things, and my realtor at the time, she was just like, "Okay, no problem." Told everything I want. I said, "Listen, I like to cook, so I want big space. I like to have family over, so I want my space." So she was like, "All right." So then she started showing me stuff, and I'm just like, "That's kind of." I told you what my budget was. Like, you showed me some stuff that's out of my budget. She said, "Well, yeah, I wanted to show you what you said you wanted. Here's everything that you want, but based on what you want to spend, it's not gonna look anything like what you really want." So
Right.
I had to eat that humble pie basically, and was like, okay, so we see how this is gonna work. And the funny thing was, we looked at, let me see, we put offers in, I think on either 3 or 4 houses, and each deal fell apart. And we had to pay for inspections on each one of those properties. The last house that we went to go see, well, the house that we got the accepted offer on, when my agent pulled us up to the front of the house, I looked at the house. I said, "Oh, there's no need for me to get out of the car." I was like, "That house is ugly. It didn't have anything that I saw as the house that I wanted as my first house." So she
Right.
was like, "Boy, just come look at the house." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not even gonna waste your time or my time. I know that's not the house for me." It had these
Right.
two big, huge trees in front of it, ugly as I don't know what. So my wife was just like, "Come on, let's go inside and look at the house." I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. Y'all go ahead and then waste your time if you want." They convinced me to go in the house. So as soon as you open the door, you can go either straight upstairs or you can go to your left to like the living room, to your right to the dining room. Now back then I was much younger, but I heard stories about shag carpet. So I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I walked in and I looked down and they had orange shag carpet on the floor. I said, "Yo, you gotta be kidding me." I said, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want to look at anything else." So my realtor, she was like, "Maurice, just come on, let's just look through the house." So we go up and looking through the different rooms now. I'm upstairs. My wife is downstairs. And I hear her saying, "This is the first house that feels like home." I was like, I'm upstairs, like, what? I flew down the stairs. I'm like, so, and it was an old lady that we was buying the house from. So I'm flying down the stairs and I'm looking at her like, "Yo, what you mean this feels like home? Don't nothing about this feel like home to me. Nothing."
Right.
So
Right.
then my agent, she's talking to me. She's like, "Maurice, let me just talk to you." She said, "Listen, the lady selling out. We paid 305,000 for this two-family house back then, but
Right.
it was basically listed as a one-family, but it was a legal two-family." So when she came to me, she said, "Maurice, look, I know you don't really like the house, but the houses should be. This house should be selling for in the 400s." I was like, "Why? This is who would pay 400 for this house?"
Right.
She was like, "It's a legal two-family, but the people are using it as a one." She said, "You're gonna get the house for 305, but it really should be in the 400. So it's like 100,000 equity." So all of a sudden, everything changed. The ugly house wasn't ugly to me no more. I'm a numbers person. So I'm like, wait a minute. So you tell me I'm walking into $100,000 in equity? Okay, I can change this room. I can knock that wall down. I can move this. So my mind went into creative,
Right.
to that creative place. And I said, okay, made it. So we did it, made the deal work, wound up getting a house. you know, turned it into what we felt was like home. I wound up redoing the kitchen and everything. The kitchen renovation that I did, they wound up putting me on the show that Al Roker had called Renovate My Place. So the whole kitchen design that I did was on TV for like a good 2 years.
What?
They kept running the episode. Now I got friends and family that was out of state. They're seeing me on TV and they're like, "Oh, yo, you must be doing it. Like we seen the kitchen." I said, "Oh, pump your brakes." I said, "That don't mean I got some kind of crazy money." I said, "I just happened to get on this show because what happened was it was a guy from the Knicks. So it was my property. This guy from the Knicks, they was doing his house, and it was one other person.
Right.
The video, well, the scene that got the most views and that had the most talk was my kitchen design. So everybody was just kind of going crazy over that. So it was cool to get some little publicity from that and everything. But it was like, for me, I just kind of fell in love over time with real estate, designing and doing stuff like that. And then boom, fast forward, I'm now a realtor.
Wow.
Meeting people, learning, because once I learned about the NACA program, I started telling a lot of people about the program. Because when I first heard about it, I just thought it was too good to be true. I was like, this don't sound right. I was like, who's going to do all of this stuff? Who's going to give you all of this? And the more I started doing the research, I realized that the program really was legit. But I called down to HUD. I called down to HUD and said, listen, is this program really legit or is this program a fraud? They was like, no, it's a legitimate 501(c), not-for-profit organization. They help people with housing, revitalization neighborhoods. So I was like, okay. I said, you know what? I'll be the test dummy for it. I'll go through it. And when we originally started, I didn't take the program that serious because they were asking for all these documents. They were asking for all this stuff. And it's not as easy, but they don't have it as streamlined back then when I was going through it versus when you guys went through. So
Right.
I'm saying to myself, I got to give you all this documentation. And then they started going through different things saying, like, where you spend your money. So he was like, well, for the type of property that you want, you're going to need to save an extra $1,000 a month. Now, back then, so I'm sitting down at the desk. My wife is sitting to the left of me. So when the guy was like, you're going to have to save an extra $1,000 a month, I'm tapping her on her foot. Like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know where that's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to save an extra $1,000 a month. But I'm sitting there listening to him, trying to be Joe Cool, like, yeah, okay, I hear you. But in my mind, I'm like, this ain't going to happen.
Right.
So maybe about a month or two went by and we really didn't do anything because it was more me. Like I was just like, yo, I'm not giving these people all this information. I don't feel like having to do all this work. And then I came to myself and I said, you know what? They have what I need. I don't have anything that they need. I'm like, so if these people are willing to give me a loan to get a property and they're telling me what the requirements are that need to be met, I need to just buckle down and do what I got to do. Because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit me. So then I started getting real serious with the program. I started getting all the documents together that they asked for. And I'll tell you one thing, that budget that they give you, back when I did it, it was a 5-page budget. When I looked at that budget and I started realizing where all my money was going, that was a real reality check for me.
Yeah.
Because once I started to see where I was blowing my money, it became real easy to be like, I can save $1,000. Because see, like I said, I used to work for a company called Robert Plan. There, they would make anything that we wanted for breakfast, anything that we wanted for lunch. So if you wanted steak and eggs for breakfast, that's what they would make downstairs in the cafeteria. So I'm spending money for lunch and breakfast every day. So as I'm going realizing how much money I'm spending, I'm like, Dad, before I even leave the job to go home, sometimes I'm spending on average $15 a day. That's just there. So then I started counting up the cost further on what I was spending money on. Buying tea at the job, newspaper, various things like that. Now I love clothes. So I felt like every time I get paid, I deserve to go buy something new. So I'm going shopping, buying clothes, buying suits and different things. So after looking at all of that, I said, Dad, I see where all the money's going. Haircuts, food, all these different things. So I said, you know what? If I'm serious about buying this house, I can't keep wasting my money on things that aren't going to benefit me.
Right.
I started getting up earlier, eating breakfast at home, or taking breakfast with me to the job. I started making my lunch, taking my lunch with me sometimes to the job. I didn't do it all the time, but I did it enough to put a huge dent in now making more money and saving more money rather. I stopped going to the barber shop, started cutting my own hair. I stopped going out buying clothes every time I got paid. Shut all that back, shut all that down. Now I love to eat. You guys already know I love to eat. So
Yes.
I was always going out to restaurants, and my thing was I don't really care for going to the restaurants where you gotta look up at the menu. I'm going to sit down and look at the menu that way.
Right.
So I was spending a lot of money eating out, a couple $100 a month easy eating out. I cut that back. Then my wife, she said, you know what? If you're cutting back on some things, I'm gonna cut back on some things. She stopped going to the now this might hurt. This might be hurtful for some of the ladies. They may not want to hear this.
Right.
She stopped going to the salon getting her hair done. She started doing her own hair. She stopped going to get the manis and pedis, started doing it herself. That was a huge savings right there. Huge
Right.
savings. But now here's the funny thing. Nobody even realized that she wasn't going to the salon getting her hair done by professionals anymore and getting her mani and pedi by professionals. She was doing it herself. But we saved so much money. Same thing. So I was just like, you know what? When you're serious about something, you'll make the sacrifice. People
Yes.
like to make a lot of excuses and say, oh, well, I can't afford that or I can't afford this. You buying bags, you buying shoes, you buying cars. Like you can afford it. Like if you ride around in a car that's costing you five, six, $700 a month, not including the insurance, but you don't own a house. You paying rent somewhere for $1,500 a month, $1,800 a month. I have clients that's paying $2,600 a month in rent. I'm like, that's a mortgage. Why are you wasting your money? So sometimes sitting down with clients, and I always give them like my example. I'm like, listen, I know what you're going through because I was that person who wasn't disciplined. I was that person who was spending my money unnecessarily on frivolous things. I'm like, but once I got serious, those things didn't matter to me no more. I
Exactly.
wanted to become a homeowner. I wanted to have something to say, you know what? This is what I'm working hard for. Forget about the people that's driving around in nice cars and have nice clothes, but you're paying rent. You don't own anything. So that was part of that transition for me. And NACA was a blessing to me in a sense where it got me on point when it came to how I spend my money. That was like that's one of the biggest takeaways. Forget about the money that they saved me. The fact that they put me on a budget, they showed me my reality. They
That's
showed me,
right.
Maurice, you're not good with your money. You blowing your money on things that's unnecessary. Um, and that was a big plus. So I tell a lot of people one of the things that you're going to get from NACA is it's going to put you on a tight budget. It's going to show you where you're wasting your money. If you want to do something different with your finances, that budget is going to show you where you need to trim the fat, where you
Hmm.
need to get more discipline, where you're being frivolous. So that's a key. Um, some of the things that people need to understand when you're dealing with a program like NACA versus say traditional lending. And like I have a background in mortgages also. Like I did mortgages with a company called National Lending Corporation. And before them I was with another company called REM, REMN. Um, and so I would say my mortgage background total probably about maybe back then, say like maybe 6, 7 years doing mortgages. So I tell people you can choose to go the NACA route, 100% financing, no PMI, no closing costs, no down payment. They pay your attorney fee, they pay the bank attorney fee, they pay for the appraisal, they pay a good portion of the title insurance that you're going to need. Now, if you go on the traditional route, you don't put down 20%, you're paying PMI, private mortgage insurance. You're going to be paying that for the life of the loan in some cases, unless you refinance the property once you reach the 80% threshold. So you have that. That PMI can cost you an additional, depending on the purchase price of the house, it could be anywhere, well, for New York, it could be anywhere from $200 to $500 additional on your payment, on your monthly payment. Going the route of NACA, you don't even have to deal with that. Then you have the aspect of with NACA, you can buy your rate down. Most people don't realize that right there is one of the most beneficial things to it, because now you can literally have your mortgage payment so low and the majority of your principal, your payment is going towards principal, not interest and principal. That's
Right.
a huge takeaway. Now, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, so I'm only sharing my experience. Um, I realized that I said, you know what? It makes sense to buy down your interest rate no matter how long you're going to be in the house, because when you buy down the rate, points are tax deductible. So my accountant explained that to me. He said, listen, points are tax deductible. So if you buy your rate down 5 points, and let's say you made $100,000 in that year that you bought your house, when you go file your taxes, let's say you made 100,000, but you spent $20,000 in buying down your points. You're going to get a credit for those points. So they're not going to tax you on 100,000. They're going to tax you on 80,000. So boom.
Mm.
So right there, you already got your money basically back from that aspect, from a tax standpoint. But now you're reducing how much your monthly payment is going to be because of the interest rate buy down. Then the other aspect is not only the interest rate buy down do you save monthly, but now you're going to drastically reduce the amount of interest that you pay over the life of that loan. So sometimes you can do your interest rate buy down, and let's just say you went from 1 point. That one full point, let's say you went from a 3% rate to a 2% rate, that could literally put you in a position where you saved over $200,000 in interest when you look at the
Right.
amortization schedule, and people don't realize that. So I tell people, you take as much money as you have to buy down that rate, because you only get one opportunity to buy it down, and that's before you go to closing. You have to tell your counselor, I have X amount of dollars that I'm using to buy down my rate. So that's the key. Now, going into the program, people have to realize if you want somebody else's mortgage, you're not going to be able to get qualified till you come off that person's mortgage. You can't show ownership of any other property at the time that you're going through NACA, because NACA, any property that you buy through NACA, whether it's a condo co-op, 1 to 4 family property, it has to be your primary residence, meaning
So
that you have
Maurice,
to occupy it.
I'm sorry. I need you to repeat that last part because I want people to make sure that they understand that he said condo co-op. You could actually, you can get commercial property. Well, you can make your property a commercial property as well. I just wanted to make sure that that was out there because I wanted to, a lot of people are just thinking about, even though they have to live in a property, but a lot of people were thinking about, they can't make money from actually having a NACA property as well.
Yeah, because anything anything 4 units is under is still considered residential. As soon as you get 5 units or more, that's considered commercial property.
Okay.
So 1 to 4 family is residential. Um, what you can also do, you can get mixed use. So mixed use meaning that you can buy a building where, let's say, it's 3 units on the top, and then the bottom is the commercial space. As long as it stays within 4 units, and the majority of it has to be more residential than commercial, you can get a mixed use property going through the NACA program. Um, it's people need to understand this also. It's easier to qualify for a multifamily than it is a single family in a lot of cases, because they're going to take 75% of the income the potential income that you're going to get from each one of those rental units, and add it on to your net income to help you qualify for that multifamily property. So I tell people it would be in your best interest to buy a multifamily property first, because now you're being able to take advantage of the program, getting into something 100% financing, no down payment, no closing costs, no PMI, no points, all those things. If you tried to go that route as an investor, you're talking about 20% down. Like, we're looking at properties in Brooklyn, easily $1 million, but let's just to make it smaller numbers, $500,000, 20% down, that's $100,000 that you need as a down payment. you still got to pay closing costs. That could be, they usually tell you the average say 6%, but in the boroughs, it usually winds up winding up to be between 3.5 to 4.5%. So you can easily be out of pocket $140,000 to try to get into a $500,000 multifamily property, you know, in the boroughs or somewhere, or just in general, if you're doing it as an investor. So you have to, I tell people, take advantage of, make that your primary residence. And then if you decide that down the road you don't want to be there anymore, then you refinance the property. Now you no longer have the NACA mortgage, and then you can go buy something else a couple of years down the road if you choose to. You know, nobody knows if they're going to stay in the house forever. A lot of people buy a house, and within the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, they're already on to their next property. You know, the first property is usually like a stepping stone. It's not your dream house, it's just what you can afford at the time.
Right.
So
we have a few questions, and it's your phone keep going in and out just a little bit. So they're saying that it's a little hard to hear you, but it could be like a Wi-Fi thing. So we have a few questions. So the questions are really the same. It says, are there any programs outside of New York that are similar to NACA for those who don't live in New York City? And
NACA is used anywhere.
Yes, NACA is everywhere. And then someone else said, is that universal or only New York? And yeah, he just said that. That's actually anywhere. And then, okay, that's all we have right now.
Okay. Yeah, so they can pretty much, now it's so much easier to deal with NACA as far as attending a workshop because of the pandemic. You're allowed to do the workshop online. So anybody who wants to sign up, they can just go on NACA's website, NACA.com, register for either the regular first-time home buyers workshop, or they can register for the Achieve the Dream. The difference between the two is people who register for the Achieve the Dream workshops, they're in a position to where they can get qualified sometimes the same day when they meet with their mortgage counselor, as long as they have all their documentation together. Meaning like their bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns, W-2s, transcripts. If they can have all those documents together by the time they have their workshop during their Achieve the Dream with that counselor, they can literally submit their file the same day because the underwriters and everybody is on the spot at that point and get an approval. So you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, it takes forever with NACA. I've seen it on all scales. I've had clients that go through the program and get qualified in under 30 days. I've had clients that go through the program and it took them not a year, years to get qualified. Reason being, everybody's situation is different. And sometimes people aren't always forthcoming with the whole reason why it took them so long to go through NACA. And don't get me wrong, they definitely have their issues because it's so many people trying to go through the program. So yeah, sometimes it's their fault. But I'll give you an example. If you have somebody who has never paid rent and they're living at home and all of a sudden they want to go get a mortgage, and let's say the potential mortgage payment is going to be $2,000. They don't have a payment, they don't have a savings pattern showing $2,000 a month. They haven't been paying rent to show that they can pay $2,000 a month. So NACA is going to now turn around and say, okay, you're going to have to go on a savings pattern to show us that you can save $2,000 a month for, say, the next 3 to 6 months constantly until you close. Some people don't realize that that might be a reason why you can't get qualified right away. Then there could be other situations to where, let's say that if you have a late payment, they're not concerned about your credit score. So if you have a 500 credit score and somebody else has an 800 credit score, everybody's going to get the same low rate going through NACA. It's not credit score driven. Yes, they are concerned about your credit report as far as late payments, collections, things of that nature. They don't want to see that. So if you have a late payment, and let's say it was 6 months ago, their thing is no late payments within the last 12 months. So now you're going to have to wait 6 additional months that you can show you don't have any late payments. So that's not NACA's fault that you can't get qualified right away. You had late payments on your credit report. Part of the guidelines is late within the last 12 months. So one of the things I tell people to do, I like to sit down with my clients before they go through the process. I look at their credit report. If they need credit repair, I recommend them to somebody who can fix their credit to get rid of the collections, the late payments, the charge-offs, repos, whatever it is, so that before they go to NACA, their credit is clean.
Right.
Then I sit down with them, I look at their bank statements, and I explain to them the things that are going to become an issue with NACA. If they see you taking out a lot of money from the ATM, that's going to create what's called an LOE. They're going to say you got to write a letter of explanation. Well, to avoid writing the letters of explanation, stop taking out the small withdrawals. Just use your debit card from everything, because now they'll see exactly what you spent your money on, and now you just put yourself in a position where you created less work for yourself, because now you don't have to write the letters because they see everything. And it's more or less trying to make you see where your money is going.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a key aspect. Then the other thing people have to realize, going through this qualification period, one of the reasons why it's taking a lot longer now in NACA is because of the pandemic. Being that now everybody can do the workshop online at home, you have hundreds, literally thousands of people throughout the states that's registered for the workshop. They don't have enough loan officers. They don't have enough staff to deal with the demand that they're getting. So these counselors, they're overworked. They're under a lot of pressure. A loan officer for NACA does 10 times more work than a traditional loan officer outside. Outside world, you can go get qualified in 1 to 2 days if you have all your documents together.
That's what I was going to ask you. For the people who says, because I have people that be like, why? I understand NACA a little bit, but why do I have to provide all of them? Why they want to be in my business? Why do I have to provide all this information to them? And I can just go to the bank, a regular lender, and get an approval quicker and faster. So what do you have to say to those people?
It's true, they can. But here's one of the things I try to explain to people when it comes to NACA versus traditional lending. NACA is looking at every single thing that you spend money on. So when they qualify you, if you have a person that's going through NACA that's qualified for $500,000, and you have a person that's going to say, let's say Citibank or any other lender, separate and apart from NACA for $500,000, I'll take the person that's going through NACA any day over the person that went to Bank of America or one of those other traditional lendings with their qualification. Reason being, NACA is asking for everything that you spend money on. So when they give you a qualification saying, yes, you can afford X amount of dollars, that's real. And they qualify you based off your net, not your gross. Outside lending, they're qualifying you based off your gross income. We all know you don't pay bills based off your gross. It'd be nice, but the tax man wants his share. So they don't qualify you off your net, and then they only asking for your credit report. They're asking for your most recent pay stubs, most recent bank statements, 2 months most cases, and then they're going to ask you for your tax returns and W-2s. That's traditional. But now, think about it. They're using your income and your credit report to determine what you qualify for. But we know there's so many other factors that can show up as part of your day-to-day expenses that don't come up on your credit report. You can have private school that costs you $1,500 a month. That doesn't show up on the credit report. So that outside lender isn't calculating that $1,500 that you have in private school into that. They're not calculating your insurance payment on your car that could be $400 or $500 extra a month. That's $2,000 right there that they didn't account for. There's so many other things. That's why NACA wants to know, how much are you spending for groceries? What's your cell phone bill? What do you spend in tithes? If you pay any kind of tithes and offerings, they want to know that. They want to know everything, because when you buy a house, those things aren't going to stop. So your qualification covers all that with NACA. It doesn't cover really any of that in outside lending. It's just not there.
And then NACA has the best foreclosure rate. I think it's like 0.0001 versus, most other lenders. So we have another question here.
So that guy Alex that just popped up, that's one of my clients right there.
Yeah, he said you got him the best investment ever.
Good. He's somebody we're gonna definitely bring him on so he can speak also.
Okay, definitely. So someone asked, it says, I was asking, is a 4 units and under considered residential universal or only in New York? The program
No,
I knew was universal. I pulled, okay, yeah.
yeah, the 4 units is that's standard. It doesn't apply to New York. That's just in general. Commercial properties are always anything 5 units or more. Residential is anything 4 units and under. And that 4 units and under covers condos and co-ops. But just remember, condos, the difference between co-ops and condos and the single family or multifamily properties, a condo and everything else, you get a deed. Co-ops, you get shares. So you get shares as ownership, not an actual deed.
Hmm. So Alex said that you take shortcuts, you run out of paper, and that's the truth. That's
Yep.
true.
Yeah. NACA definitely has the lowest. And he's one of my clients that when I tell you he listened to everything that I said, took it to the next level. And what I like about him, he shared the information. He didn't just keep it, he shared the information with many people to help other people become homeowners through the program.
Right.
Um, perfect. Took my advice and that's the other thing. Sometimes people don't realize the type of market that we're in right now, everything is going for either asking price or above, the majority. Don't get me wrong, you might have a few deals where people actually got it below the list price, but the bulk of the properties, they're going for asking price or higher. So you have people coming into the market thinking that, well, I'm not getting a good deal if I have to pay market price or above. Well, if that's your mindset, then you're going to be looking for a house for a long time because the competition out here is fierce right now. It's still a seller's market. You don't have a lot of inventory on the market, so you have a lot of people bidding on the same house. So you have to be able to come to the table strong. Now, one of the things that I like to do to separate my clients from other clients, and this is not something that you're required to do, but the typical offer that gets submitted on a property, the person is usually only submitting 2 documents. They're submitting the qualification letter and they're going to submit the sales agreement that the agent writes up that determines how much they're going to offer for that property to that seller. When I submit my offers, depending on my client's situation, I like to submit their proof of assets. I like to, if they have high credit scores, I like to submit a copy of their credit scores and to show the W-2. Because here's what a smart agent is going to do versus just looking at the qualification letter. When they see your assets, they see your credit score, and they see your income, they can kind of say to themselves, okay, yeah, this person can qualify. We see they have the money to cover down payment if need be. We see they have the money to cover closing costs if need be. And based off the income is there. We see the income and assets and credit. So the other thing that I pose to people at times, I say, put yourself in the seller's shoes. If you have one person that's coming with 100% financing, another person that's coming, and you both are offering the same amount, you both offering, let's say, 500,000 on the property. I'm coming with 100% financing. You're coming with 20% down. So you're putting down 100,000 on the property. I'm turning around. I'm asking for 100% financing. Which offer looks stronger? The offer where somebody's putting down 100 grand, or the one that doesn't have anything vested in it that's getting 100% financing.
The
So
100
these
grand.
are things. So
Hmm.
right. So people have to keep that in mind when you're submitting your offer. You're submitting an offer, and it has to be strong. Now, of course, a lot of times people want concessions, and the concession is basically a seller credit. Whether you use that credit to go towards your closing costs or towards your repairs, if any, that makes your offer actually look weaker. Because if you have somebody submitting an offer for 500,000 with 20% down, and you're submitting an offer for 500,000, but you're also asking for a concession, your offer is weaker than the other person. Even if it's not 20% down, if you have somebody that's putting 3.5% down, but they're saying, I have my closing cost money, I don't need a concession, that person's offer is now stronger than yours. So you have to make your offer stand out, meaning you got to submit your highest and best offer up front nowadays. Years ago, you might be able to look at a property today and say, you know what, I'm gonna take a couple of days before I make an offer. People are seeing a property today and submitting their offer on the spot, walking everything in hand on the spot. So you can't be hesitant. So sometimes people may feel like, well, oh, you're rushing me. No, I'm not rushing you, and other agents aren't rushing you. It's just that we know the climate of the market that we're dealing with. You have to be able to pull that trigger quick. Otherwise, you'll be looking for a house literally for months and years. I've had clients that took them over a year to get a house. And sometimes it's because one, what they're qualified for and what they're trying to buy, the two don't line up. You can't be, like I tell people,
Just
you
charging
can't
the phone.
say,
Mhm.
huh?
I'm charging the phone. Just keep talking.
No problem. So it's like you can't say to yourself that, well, I'm gonna try to go buy this BMW, this Bentley, and all I want to spend is $50,000. No, you're dealing with the wrong bees. You can get the BMW for 50 grand, but you're not getting the Bentley for 50 grand. So it's the same thing with the houses. A person can't think that, well, this person is going to take $50,000 to $60,000 off their price of the house for me. No, for what? When they got all these other people offering them asking price. Or if you only qualified for, say, your monthly payment that you qualified is $3,000, there's no need for us to look at houses where your payment is going to potentially be 3,500.
Yeah.
And people don't realize the cheaper the house in most cases, it's not going to be that house that you're going to go to and you can be like, oh my God, I just love this. I fell in love. The more expensive houses are going to have those things that you want that's going to make you fall in love. So you have to kind of go into it a mindset that I'm going to make this house a home. I'm going to fix it up. As long as it has the space, you can do the bathrooms over. You can do the kitchen over time. But you got to get in where you fit in because otherwise you're going to be, you're going to be spending your tires in mud. Like you're not going to go anywhere.
Right. So Maurice, let me ask for the people that's on here and they say, "Hey, I'm in the army or I'm a veteran and we have Navy Federal, we can go through them to get a mortgage or, I heard of another program called I don't know, company and they're telling me that they're a really great program as well. What do you think NACA stands to these other programs, especially Navy Federal?"
Navy, now I'm a little biased when it comes to Navy Federal because I love the products that Navy Federal has.
Yes.
They're they're a blessing. But here's the reality. A lot of companies will tote that they're the best. NACA on their workbook it says America's number one mortgage, best mortgage product. It really is. When you look at all the things that you can get with a NACA mortgage, even if you compare Navy Federal, a VA loan is going to be your second in line with a NACA loan. It's going to be your NACA mortgage, a VA loan, and then everything else underneath that will be third, fourth, and fifth. But you can't buy your rate down to 0.50 through Navy Federal. It's not there. Navy Federal is not paying your attorney fee and your bank attorney's fee. They're not doing that. So even if you just look at that one aspect right there, buying down the rate, they're not on the same level right off the bat. Now, the amount of costs that they're going to cover for you. Navy covers some costs, but they don't cover all the costs that NACA covers. So is it a good program? Yes. But when you're talking about who's the best, NACA is the best as far as how much they're going to save you. You know, you can't compare it. Does it come with a whole lot of hoops that you got to jump through? Yes, but I tell people a mortgage is for 30 years. You want to go get a house quick, but now you're going to pay probably $1,000 more a month, or you want to take a little bit more time and have a payment that's $1,000 less. I go with
Right.
$1,000 less.
So another question. So I don't know if you heard about, most likely you did, about the government, I believe the presidential candidate, well, the president is going to, I guess he's trying to pass a policy to give first-time home buyers $15,000 down payment. Did you hear that?
Yes.
What
Yeah,
do
I
you
heard
think
about
of
that.
What do you think about that? Like, how would that, what would that do to the market that we have right now? Would it be easier to purchase a home, or I mean, would it be harder to purchase a home?
Well, it's gonna make it easier for those who are serious about home ownership because now it's giving them $15,000 extra that they can use towards either their down payment or closing costs. So it's gonna benefit them in that aspect. So now, because like I've seen a lot of clients to where they can pay the mortgage payment, but they don't have the savings. They don't have the money saved to make that transition into home ownership, but they can make the mortgage payment no problem. So a lot of times the disconnect is the fact that not that I don't want to become a homeowner, it's just that I don't have the money to put down to cover down payment and closing costs. That's another reason why I like the NACA program because there is no down payment. Now here's where a lot of people get it twisted. It's 100% financing, but you still have to have money. You still got to bring money to the table because you have to put an earnest deposit down. So and I tell people you want to put down as much money as possible for your earnest money deposit because why? That makes your deal look stronger when your offer is going across. Like some people will say, well, I only want to put $10,000 down on contract. If all you have is 10, I understand it. But let's say if you have $80,000, I'm going to tell you it'd be in your best interest to put $50,000, $60,000 down on contract. You're going to get all that money back minus your prepays, the escrows for your taxes, your insurance, your prepaid interest. Um, you're going to get everything else back. So let's say your prepays come to $10,000. You have $50,000 on contract. Well, when you get to the closing, if you're not buying down your rate or anything like that, they're going to give you back $40,000. They're going to take 10,000, which was part of your prepaids, subtract that from the 50 that you have as your earnest deposit money, and cut you back a check for 40 grand. So you're not losing your money, but so some people think that, oh well, I thought NACA was no down payment. It is. No down payment means 100% financing, but you still have to have money on contract to show the seller that you're serious, especially in New York. An attorney is not going to let their seller go into contract and there's no money on contract because they're going to say you can walk away from the deal at any given point.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I remember when we went through the process as well. Having putting down more money was better for us because there were some deals that we we didn't get because some people probably put down more money than we did. So yeah, so it's becoming up to the hour. It's so much more I definitely want to ask you. So we definitely have to bring you back. Sorry guys. We have a puppy.
So we can do the part two. We can do the part two, and then I'll bring on some of my clients like Alex. I have another client, T2. And these are people who can definitely give their fair share on and thoughts on how the program benefited them and how it put them in a position to win. Because that's the bottom line. It can put you in a position to win. I show people how after you get your first house, how to leverage that property, take out an equity line of credit, and use that equity line of credit to start buying more properties as your investment properties. A house is more than just a home. You got to know how to play the game. Leverage that house to put you in a position to win.
And that's exactly what we want to talk about. And I know that's exactly why the people came here because they wanted to know the scoop. And I think you guys got a lot of information from Maurice today. So we're definitely going to bring him back. We're going to bring back some more of his clients that can be able to tell you what exactly is it that they did, and like he said, that put them in a position to win. So we just want to say thank you, Maurice, and hopefully we can get you on here on a Friday. We could hopefully maybe two more episodes from here.
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram at maurice.johnson.1614. And they can follow me on Facebook also.
That's right. So I will definitely drop all of his information his Instagram, all of his social media contact. If you guys wanted to know more, if you want to follow him on his Instagram, he shows you all, all his clients, how they're winning and the properties that they're closing. He's like closing on properties every day. So it's actually really inspiring to watch. So I just want to say thank you, Maurice. I can't wait to bring you back. We have so many more questions to ask you. So thank you for, allowing us to have your time.
No problem. So we can do something next week. Do something next week.
Yes, Friday.
All right. That'll work.
All right. Thanks a lot, Maurice. Thank you,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Thank you,
Anytime.
everyone else, for joining. This is Society of Bosses. This is what we do every week, 3-4 times a week. We're bringing entrepreneurs, leaders, bosses here to inspire, to teach, to preach, to basically to inspire you to do better, to make better choices in your life. And I hope that we were able to do that tonight. So, everyone, have a great day, and we'll see you again on Monday. Thank you.